So today I'm going to be talking about how life is so far in Bali. I actually can't even believe that I'm here. Like, I can't, it hasn't sunk in yet. It's not quite been a week, but we're almost there. So, I mean, I feel like I'm still adjusting. The time difference thing is definitely still a thing, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. But I basically wanted to do this video to talk about the fact that this is not what I expected. When it came to coming to Bali and having this experience of solo traveling, digital nomading, this is far from what I expected to be my reality. So let's go back a little bit. Let's kind of like dive into that. So I often believe that we all have visions, we all have goals, we all have things that we want to achieve, we all have things that we want to tick off our bucket list. But when we visualize them, when we imagine these things, we imagine them so differently to how the actual reality takes place. And that's because when we create a vision, when we want something, when we are excited about something, when we have a bucket list vision of something, it almost feels out of reach. Like, yes, of course, we know deep down that it's possible. So we're like, it's possible to do this. But there's probably a little part of us that doesn't feel that it is possible. There's probably a little part of us that thinks, oh, I don't know, like that would be a dream. You know, that would be something that's just so outrageous and so far-fetched. That's how we feel about going to these bucket list destinations, how we feel about starting the dream job, how we feel about starting our business, how we feel about really getting out of our comfort zone and doing something that we've never done before. So we visualize it so differently. And I think if you look back at certain milestones that you've achieved, and I know that it's hard to do this sometimes because a lot of the time we don't acknowledge how far we've come. So we sometimes have these milestones that we've set out, but actually that we've achieved them, but they just look different to how we thought it was going to look. So it becomes natural and real very, very quickly, which means that we then go, oh yeah, like I hit that goal, didn't I? But it just looks different and it feels different. That's exactly what's happened with Bali. So before I came here, I thought that I was going to be coming into Bali, having this whole experience as sort of solo, being by myself, you know, getting really familiar with my own company, which I do love my own company. That is something that, like, as much as I'm an extrovert, oh my gosh, I love my own time. I can spend days and days and days on end just by myself in my own company, writing, journaling, listening, chilling, like, and I love it. So I just thought that that was going to be heavily what this trip was about. So I arrived on Thursday and, you know, kind of got myself checked in, got set. I was like, right, I'm just going to have some solo time by the pool, chill out. And obviously, before I got here, there had been Facebook groups and people that I've been following on Instagram that I've been chatting to, been connecting with. And this is the power of social media. So social media can make something that feels so out of reach and so far-fetched feel so real before you've even got there. So one thing that I always suggest when I'm working with my clients is surround yourself with the people that you want to be like. Surround yourself with the people who inspire you. And it's so easy to do that now. You know, before we weren't able to kind of connect with millionaires or six-figure earners or people that were traveling the world because we didn't really have that access point. You know, it's like, where were these like magical creatures? Whereas now you've got social media, you've got a tool, you can create the environment that you want to digitally, like you have access to that. So what that does is it means it brings it closer to you. It makes it feel more normal, more realistic, more natural. So I actually did that way before I came to Bali. I was already in that mind frame because I was already following people and looking at people's content, connecting with people, meeting other people in Facebook groups that said, hey, I'm going to be there the same date. So I was like, right, okay, this is good. We can make a plan. So that was already happening in the background before I even got here. So of course, when I got here, it didn't feel like the solo trip that I had imagined because there were already people to text, already people whose numbers I had, you know, people who I had on Instagram, on Facebook. So it felt like, okay, cool, now I'm here. Hey guys, what are you up to? But I will tell you one thing. There was an event planned on Sunday, and this is for like a community that's in Bali. So, you know, this is honestly, find communities. There's lots of different groups. There's like girls in Bali, there's digital nomads in Bali, there's black in Bali, there's all these different groups, right? So there are community things happening. There are people that are on the island that are like, let's meet up, let's do something. And they're all open, right? Because otherwise they wouldn't be in the Facebook groups. If they just wanted to kind of have their solo trip and be by themselves, there's no way they're going to be in a Facebook community saying like, hey, I'm around, I'm here these dates, what do you want to do, kind of thing. So there was an event that was being held by Black in Bali, and it was a brunch. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to go to this brunch. Now, one thing that I kind of underestimated is that Singapore was mad. Singapore was crazy. It was non-stop. It was exciting. Like, there was just so much to see. There was so much to do. Like, it was just wild. It was just a really, really busy, amazing time in Singapore. I actually thought that Singapore was going to be an adjustment period because I hadn't really made many plans before I got there. I was so busy thinking about Bali, so busy thinking about Cappadocia, which was the group trip that I'd organised, that all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm going to Singapore in a few days. I haven't even planned. Like, what do I do? So then I quickly was kind of frantically planning and found out that I've got some friends there, and then also that some friends were going to be there at the same time. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll make plans with them. We will piggyback off each other's plans. That's what I kind of thought. So what ended up happening was that it was literally non-stop. I was eating my way through Singapore. I was going all over. I was walking like crazy, meeting friends, going to the museums, going to watch all of the lights, going to the buildings, going to the rooftops. Like, it was just a vibe. So I got here and I was so tired. Now, one of the things, I mean, it's totally worth it. But one of the things that I have to continue to do is do my client calls at exactly the same time as I did it in the UK. Now, in the UK, it was 8 p.m. UK time, and I've got clients that are all international. I've got America, I've got Turkey, I've got Sweden, obviously UK. So because of the time difference, it makes sense for me to keep the time the same, because it was so hard to ever get the time to that point anyway, which is 8 p.m. UK time, which means that on a Thursday, I have to be up at 3 a.m. to make sure that I deliver this call with my clients. Now, it's a small price to pay in the grand scheme of things. It's once a week and I'm totally okay with it. But I landed on that Thursday. So it meant that I was kind of like all out of sorts. I was like, right, okay, how do I get this call booked in? So it was a little bit crazy, but had this call, and in the midst of all this, obviously I'm in this WhatsApp group chat, getting ready. Everyone's talking about this Sunday brunch or whatever. So I was like, right, okay. I was going to take a week to adjust. But in the end, I just said, you know what? What's the week going to do? I might as well just go now. Like, I might as well just go. So I went to the brunch on Sunday, and what was very unusual about it, very, very unusual, was that it felt so familiar. I got a bit nervous. Well, first of all, I got nervous because I was on the back of a bike, by the way. So if any of you have been to Bali, you'll know that instead of Uber, they have Grab and Gojek. And yes, you can get cars, like normal taxis, but the main way of transporting yourself from one place to the other is on the back of a scooter. Much quicker, dives through traffic, and obviously it's much cheaper. So I ended up getting on the back of a Grab bike to go all the way to, you know, the next town along, which was in Canggu, to go to brunch. So that was already terrifying enough. Like, let me just put it that way. We're weaving in and out of traffic. I'm holding on for dear life. Like, it was just crazy. It was a madness. But when I got there, I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to meet all these people. Like, who are they? Like, what if they don't know who I am? And, you know, I'm going to meet all these people. What if they don't like me? Like, what if there's a weird vibe? Like, what if they all know each other and it's all cliquey? Like, you know, you never know when you go into these situations. But then I was like, I literally do this. Like, I literally organize these, you know, bring people together. I think I'm going to be okay. So got to this brunch, and it was amazing, you know, meeting people from all over, meeting people that have had different lengths of time in Bali. So some people have been there for a few years, some people have been there for a day, some people have been there for a week, and it was their honeymoon. So it was a nice little balance of all different, you know, lengths of time in Bali. So we had so many different experiences to share. Some people had come from other parts of Southeast Asia and they were talking about their trips. Some people were on their way to Australia, so they're talking about that. So it was just such a great connection, because that one thing kind of brought us all together, which is we've got this pull to come to Bali. A lot of them were traveling solo or had started traveling solo but had met other friends that had now become their friends on the trip. And I thought it was going to take me a very, very long time to get to that point. However, because I was there, because I was in the room, because I was meeting people, I started to find people that I was vibing with. And to be honest, I was vibing with everyone, but there's specific people that I was like, oh, like, let's do this and let's make a plan and, you know, whatever. So we all went to go watch sunset together, which was incredible. It was just one of those magical, like, pinch me moments where you're like, how is this my life? But I'll tell you what, when I was visualizing my time in Bali, I did not once imagine that I would be on a beach, especially in my first week, on a beach, watching the sunset with a big group of people who felt like family. That just didn't occur to me. I thought that I was going to be maybe meeting like the odd friend, and like we can kind of be like travel besties. I thought maybe I'd meet like some of the like the local guides, and they'd be taking me around, and you know, all of these things probably will happen. But to see myself as part of a bigger community, it just blows my mind. And this is what the power of social media can have, because there are communities there, and if we use them in the right way, if we approach, if we connect, if we reach out, if we're open to meeting new people, you know, making friends doesn't have to stop in our teens. It doesn't have to stop in our 20s. There is still time to make some of the most significant people in your life your friends. Like, we just don't know yet. So be open when you go traveling. Don't just think, you know, this is the only way it's going to happen. And I actually did a live video the other day talking about this, because I know that it's so much easier when you're solo traveling. It's so much easier to meet people because you're a little bit more self-aware, you're open, you're making eye contact, you're probably asking questions, you're tuning into conversations a bit more. Whereas when I go traveling with my friends, oh my gosh, we're having too good of a time. You know, we've probably not spent that much time together in the past, you know, 6 months. So we're catching up, we're kind of, you know, gossiping about this, right, what's going on with this guy, you know, we're talking about all these different things, and we're spending that quality time together. So it's less likely that we're going to be super open to like who's about, you know, yes, we'll be friendly, yes, we'll meet people, but not in the same way that you meet people when you're solo. So now there's plans happening. I'm going out tonight, I'm going out tomorrow, and there's sort of like plans of sort of day trips that are kind of, you know, in the making, of like going to different islands and things like that. So these are all things that I didn't really imagine to be the reality of me living in Bali. Now, the interesting thing is that, yes, it's amazing. It is so good, but at the same time, I have got work to do. There's clients that I need to look after. So of course, it's just finding that work-life balance. And what I'm finding at the moment, I think, is because I am not yet adjusted to time difference 100%, and also because some of my meetings are obviously later in the day, like, or later in the evening and the night, and then obviously early hours of the morning. Is that I'm still living on UK time a little bit. So I need to be a bit conscious of that, because I want to be able to shift over to living in Bali time, and then every now and then have the UK call, catch up on sleep, and then go again. So there's a couple of things to sort of get my head around. But honestly, overall, I cannot complain. Like, not even close to complain. Overall, this is the most incredible thing ever. And it's crazy to think that, you know, prior to me coming here, in the run up to me coming, it was getting very complicated. You know, it was like, oh, you know, it's going to shake things up so much. Obviously, I've got my boyfriend back home. It makes so much more sense just to stay put. Like, why am I doing this? And I couldn't really figure out a reason or an answer why. There's not like I'm going here to do this specific thing. It was very open. So, you know, I could have very easily just gone, oh, you know what, I'm going to forget it. I'm just going to go on a holiday over there. But I already know that the experience I've had now is very different to the experience that I would have on a holiday, even though it's the same length of time so far. I've not been here very long, but it's just a very, very different experience. So I am super excited to see what the rest of Bali holds. I'm here for 4 months, so I really am taking my time. But, you know, the social aspect and meeting new people is really, really cool. And also what's really interesting is figuring out how small the world is. So there's 2 examples that I'm going to give you. The first example is I was out with someone the other day. We were having a bit of a catch up and, you know, having some food and drinks. So I posted a picture of a group of us on my story on Instagram, and then one of my friends back home from London that I used to work with was like, oh my gosh, I know him. And they had met working on a solar farm together in Australia. So that is like how small this world can be. Like, what are the chances of me and my London friend, you know, somehow meeting this same person in 2 different parts of the world? Like, it's just crazy. So there's already that. And then another thing that happened recently, which was, that kind of blew my mind as well. I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw this video of a girl in Bali, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to go here on this trip. So this was just on my actual like feed, so on the people that I follow. So I clicked on her profile, and I was like, hold on a minute. I know that girl. And I had met her the day before at the event, and we were chatting about her living in Vietnam and, you know, riding motorbikes and all this kind of stuff. And I click onto her DMs to message her and be like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And I realized I've been following her since 2019. So I don't know what it was that made me follow her. You know, obviously it's probably like travel content stuff, but this is probably someone I thought, oh, let me kind of like park that for inspiration and like see where she goes and, you know, get some tips or whatever. And then the next thing I know, I'm having a conversation with that same person. So it's really interesting to see how the world can kind of bring you closer together, and when you go further away. You know, I'm so far away from my reality, but at the same time it's kind of like I couldn't be closer to my Instagram reality right now. Like, it is wild because those people that I've been connecting with online, they're actually here in person, so it's very, very exciting. The other thing that really surprised me about when I arrived in Bali is that I got here, it was all busy in Singapore, got here, checked in, chilled out, and then I was kind of like, now what? Like, what happens now? And that was such a weird feeling because I don't think I thought past arriving in Bali. Like, I purposely, because I know I'm here for 4 months, I purposely didn't want to overplan. I didn't want to like put too many things in. I knew that I was going to be potentially meeting people, and I kind of wanted to be a bit flexible and go with the flow, which is very out of character for me, but I wanted to do it for this trip because I thought I've got plenty of time, there's no rush, let me find my bearings and take one step at a time. So of course what that meant was that when I got here, because I don't have this itinerary, I don't have this plan, I don't have this to-do list, it was kind of like, now what? What happens? Send me a sign, like, what goes on? So it was really unusual, and that was really unexpected because I just thought that when I got here I would just know what to do. There would almost just be this like, and then now I do this. But of course, if like you don't know a location, you don't know where you are, like you don't know, of course, like that's not going to happen. But what did happen was these events and this need and this desire to go, no, Sherilyn, get out of your comfort zone, let's meet these people and let's do it. And that was what I guess happened to then lead me on to, you know, getting all of these sort of plans and things in place now. So really, really excited. But honestly, as I said, like, things just don't happen in the way that you might think they will. But that's not to say that it's, you know, not as good, not as bad. Like, you know, that's not to say anything. That is purely just to say that, of course, our vision is always different to reality. And a lot of people say this, you know, the most successful people in the world, even when they visualize the thing, doing the thing, it probably looked very different when they actually did it because you're so much closer to it. And on the way to getting there, it doesn't feel so extreme. So, for example, when I was first visualizing this, I just felt like I had so many mountains to climb to get to this point. I was like, oh, right, I'm gonna have to sort out my finances, gonna sort my business, gonna have to do this, gonna have to do that, organize that, book the plane ticket. You know, there were all these like different intricate steps that I had to take to get to that point. Whereas over the course of the time that I was coming here and planning the trip, I did that slowly. I sorted out my visa, sorted out my SIM card, booked my accommodation. So everything happened really gradually and really slowly. And all these little things that were happening didn't really feel significant. But obviously they were all getting me closer and closer and closer to the end goal of arriving in Bali. And that is how goals work, isn't it? You know, you see the very, very big picture and you think, how am I going to get from here to there? But you don't just jump from there to there. You have to do all these little intricate steps. They're not very exciting steps. Like, it wasn't that exciting to go, right, okay, I'm gonna, you know, send this email and ask about which visa I need to apply for, or post in this Facebook group and ask for help with this. Like, they weren't exciting steps, but all of those little steps compounded to then mean that I actually arrived here and it's happened. Like, I'm actually here. So yeah, that's just something that I wanted to point out. And it's exactly the same with the goals that you're working towards at the moment, the visions that you've got for yourself now. They will feel very, very different when you arrive at them, and that's totally normal and totally expected. I'll be able to talk to you about all sorts of things, and, you know, particularly around marketing, because there's going to be a lot that I'm talking about in my content that I know is going to be beneficial to people who are wanting to create content, who are wanting to build something, wanting to create a community online. There's lots of those little nuggets that are going to come through. So of course I'm going to be sharing that with you as well. But thanks so much for listening and for tuning in. I'll definitely be keeping you updated, and right now I'm going to go and chill by the pool and enjoy the rest of my day. Speak soon. Bye.